of evolution as biological change, and we had looked at all these incremental steps where when you look at the big step, it looks kind of crazy, and when you look at all the incremental steps, it doesn't look so nuts anymore. That we're really looking at collections of tiny, tiny changes. And how long does it take for all those tiny changes to accumulate into really big differences? Well, it takes, as we said, a really, really, really long time. And we have a lot of time to play with here. And in fact, it is. Now, a lot of estimates that you'll see, and I kind of do it here, we round to 4.6 billion years. And a little later, we'll look at the evidence, how we know the age of the Earth. A lot of it is chemistry. A lot of it is actually known rates of chemical decay. But Earth was a molten sphere of rock that cooled down, by our best estimates, about 4.6 billion years ago. So we start off here. And is there life on the molten planet? No. A little over 1 billion years for the first living things to show up. They show up about 3.5. I think your timeline pegs first living things at, 3.8 billion years before present. And these are called stromatolites. They're fossil forms that are found. There are big deposits of them in Australia. Yeah, 3.8, between 3.5 and 3.8 billion years ago. We've got very good record from 3.5 billion years ago. You can still see, whoa! Sorry, I didn't realize it was going to rain that hard and that suddenly, and I had my back turned the whole time. You can still see similar life forms to these. Who here has ever seen like green, bubbly, sort of algae-looking stuff in mud puddles? Okay. Those are actually cyanobacteria, and they're photosynthetic bacteria, and that's what these are. And they left fossil layers in rock. They're called stromatolites. So about between 3.5 and 3.8 billion years ago, we have great fossil evidence of these living things, and we know what they are. They're very similar to some modern organisms. So it's about 600 million years ago that animals show up in general. And when I say animals in general, this includes insects, worms. We talk about first complex organisms. But this is some weird animal forms that you would never, ever recognize as animals. And a lot of them then went extinct. A lot of them are no longer, they don't have any descendants with us. But we have a really good fossil record of these animals. So we get animals about 600 million years ago, but they don't look like the animals you think of. If I say animals, all of you are going to picture deer and rabbits and raccoons and cows and horses and dogs and pigs and sheep. These are animals unlike anything you've ever seen. These are weird, crazy-looking animals right out of some sort of weird science fiction. That these little guys show up. And this weird-looking little mousy, weaselly, pointy-toothed, pointy-nosed, creepy little thing is one of the first mammals. It's one of the first mammals that we know of. There is a fossil of one of these in the Carnegie. When we go to the Carnegie in the spring, you'll actually, I'll offer like a bonus point on your museum scavenger hunt if you can find the fossil of the first mammal. It's hiding in plain sight in one of the exhibits, scurrying around the feet of the dinosaurs. These mammals coexisted with dinosaurs. They lived at the same time as dinosaurs. Humans didn't, whatever the Flintstones may have shown. Humans didn't coexist with dinosaurs, but these little tiny mammals did. And it took dinosaurs basically dying off to allow these guys to flourish and give rise to the mammals we have today. So this is a mammal, sure, it's furry, it would give milk to its young, which is a tremendous advantage. Gives live birth, but it's not the kind of mammal we think of. This looks like a little shrew, if anybody's ever seen a shrew, had a shrew in the house. Shrews look like little pointy-nosed mice, and they're voracious eaters, and they're very tiny. Has anybody ever seen a shrew? I had them in my basement one year. They're, terrifying little things. So that's a mammal, but it's not the kind of mammal that we think of when we think of mammal. We think about something more like, hey, that's a mammal. That's a canid. That is a primitive canine creature. It's a canid. What does it look like to you? Looks like a wolf. And when we go to the Carnegie also, there are some great intact skeletons of primitive wolves and primitive canines. So canids show up about 46 million years ago, fairly recently. And then, about 1 million years ago, these bad boys show up. Aren't they pretty? About 1 million years ago, we start to see wolves. And soon you'll know why I'm stressing the canid line, because we're going to do some work with evolution of dogs in here. I've got a fantastic book that we'll use a little bit of. So we get dogs about 1 million years ago, and about 20,000 years ago, you know who shows up on the scene? Aww! It's a dog! And that's a very primitive dog form. That's actually a picture of a Navajo sheepdog from the American Southwest. They were probably domesticated about 15,000 years ago on the North American continent by Native Americans. So it's been a long time getting to the kind of diversity of life forms we see. We'll see you tomorrow.